After the devastation of World War II, President Truman recognized the United States' responsibility to uphold basic human rights for German civilians in order to stabilize the region and prevent further conflict between the two countries. Between 1945 and 1948, CRALOG, the Council of Relief Agencies licensed for operation in Germany, was established to provide food and supplies to Germans in need. This humanitarian effort not only helped rebuild Western Europe after World War II, but also laid the groundwork for trust and cooperation, aiding the U.S. in gaining West German support amid rising tensions with the Soviet Union. President Truman's commitment to both human rights and the responsibility of fostering stability in Europe proved to be essential to post-war recovery. Left in ruins and facing extreme economic hardship as hyperinflation and debt settled in, Germany was essentially dismantled as its economy collapsed into depression after World War I. While relief efforts were underway throughout much of Europe, Germany received little humanitarian help, the only support being from the ARA, American Relief Administration, from 1921 to 1923, when the Volgan famine claimed the lives of millions. The Treaty of Versailles imposed heavy reparations on the country and severely limited their military, leading to widespread unemployment and the depression that devastated German society. Germany abandoned its gold-backed currency, sure World War I would go well, but after the war, the Treaty of Versailles bound Germany to pay the Allies the gold-backed currency and placed the Weimar government under extreme pressure. In addition, severe hyperinflation from post-World War I was caused due to the Weimar government printing more and more money to try and pay off all of Germany's debts. This was especially brutal after the Great Depression of the 1930s, and so Germany could no longer pay what was owed after the war. The German population had now lost their sense of identity. This lack of sustained support contributed to the growing depression, ultimately creating fertile ground for strong authoritarian leadership, paving the way for Adolf Hitler to step onto the podium.
In the year 1933, Hitler was appointed Chancellor of Germany after winning multiple electoral votes along with the Nazi Party. Later, after President von Hindenburg's death, Hitler was named President of Germany, and he imposed many discriminatory laws targeting the rights of Jews, homosexuals, and Jehovah's Witnesses. Within the first 2 months of his reign as dictator, he established Dachau, the first concentration camp in Europe. Concentration camps were prison-like and incarcerated any people who were viewed as inferior to the Aryan race, or in Dachau's case, political prisoners. Between 1933 and 1945, 188,000 people were imprisoned in this concentration camp, and between 1940 and 1945, 28,000 people were killed in Dachau and its subcamps. Using his persuasive voice and approved political and societal ideas, as well as propaganda, Hitler strived to achieve supreme control of Germany and manipulated the German government to take the lives of millions in order to cleanse the country. World War II erupted after Germany invaded Poland on September 1, 1939. From this victory, Germany swept through much of the European front, later invading and occupying over 20 European countries. As Germany's borders extended, more and more concentration camps were built, imprisoning Jews in not just Germany, but countries such as Poland, Austria, and the Netherlands, now part of the Greater Germany. Directly after World War II, Germany was destitute and collapsing economically, making it susceptible to communist exploitation and twisted dictatorship, a similar scenario compared to post-World War I. The Marshall Plan, or the European Recovery Program, named for Secretary of State George C. Marshall, was placed into action by the U.S. Congress, issuing the Rebuilding of Western Europe post-World War II. CRALOG was a smaller organization supplying help for the initialization of the Marshall Plan, specifically set for the country of Germany, one of the countries that had taken the most damage from the war they had started. Germany benefited in various short-term ways from CRALOG, such as supplementation of food, clothing, and medicine for thousands who needed it. Soup kitchens were also constructed and supplied all over the country by smaller branches of CRALOG, leading to an overall better caloric intake for many starving German citizens. This, however roughly, also placed Germany on better terms with our nation, when we chose to help them instead of simply letting the country suffer from hunger and economic hardship. To add, the Marshall Plan did not only benefit Germany, but also supplied markets for American goods, as well as trading partners and benefits to other countries in Western Europe.
As an effort to prevent the same events that had partaken after the last World War, Germany's humiliation and economic hardship paving the way for a fascist leadership such as Hitler, the United States decided to build up Germany, supporting the country with relief efforts and therefore preventing larger economic downfall. With the clash of ideologies with Germany and most other European countries, and the necessity of aid to the larger powers such as France and Great Britain, the United States was generally isolated from its larger allies in the endeavor. In order to establish the aid, the American Council of Voluntary Agencies for Foreign Service created CRALOG, the Council of Relief Agencies licensed to operate in Germany, after a survey team reported on the devastating situation in Germany during February 1946. The governors of the Western Allied occupation zones in Germany signed contracts with CRALOG in agreement for the United States to provide assistance in their zones. CRALOG was the only way to channel aid through the U.S. occupation zone, including 11 major relief agencies such as the International Red Cross that worked to distribute over 111,981,600 pounds of supplies, food, clothing, and medicinal drugs to suffering Germany. But was the choice to aid Germany in this time of need well accepted or opposed in American society?
Well, I generally think the American people are pretty open to supporting people who are suffering. So I think once the news came out regarding the extent of the destruction in Europe, especially in countries like Germany and Eastern Europe, the American people would have been responsive.
The American Red Cross did not specifically help Germany, but instead collaborated with citizen donations and donated money to the International Red Cross for support to help relieve Germany of the economic downfall.
During the decades after World War II, the humanitarian aid supplied from the US and other Western countries in Europe helped stabilize the German economy and save millions of lives. The aid could have also been a prevention of a fall into a Third World War, considering the fact that a principal cause for World War II was the German people being incredibly humiliated and impoverished after World War I, and thus these factors were intercepted from repeat by the aid provided. The former Allied powers made sure to establish a steady supply of food, medicine, and economic aid, and as a result of this, Western Germany was later a key ally for the United States. The superpowers also occupied Germany for many years afterwards, making sure that Germany wouldn't collapse and fall to dictatorship again, leading to Germany becoming one of the most prosperous areas of the world. Finally, upon the metaphorical collapse of the Soviet Union and the literal collapse of the Berlin Wall, Eastern Germany's spirit and identity was restored, and the region was reabsorbed into the country. All in all, after the destruction of World War II, President Truman gave the United States the responsibility of saving the German civilians in order to stabilize the region and put a stop to any more casualties. The United States accomplished this by sending rations and other products to Germany through CRALOG, the Council of Relief Agencies licensed to operate in Germany, and supervising Germany's rehabilitation for many decades afterwards, eventually supporting the country enough to become one of the safest and wealthiest in the world. This topic is important to history for many reasons, one of which is that it might have prevented a Third World War due to the fact that, after World War II, the Germans were in an economic depression similar to post-World War I, and so rightful concerns spread that outlined the possibility that the Germans would fall back to a dictatorship and begin another world war. To conclude, without the United States' aid, the German economy would have faced collapse once again, and therefore the decision to take responsibility in order to help the Germans created a lasting wake in the tides of history.